Okay, Progress and Poverty, or starting page 151. Book 3, The Laws of Distribution. And then I guess it has its own chapters within this part of the book. So, Chapter 1, the inquiry narrowed to or this is just the table of contents, I guess. The inquiry narrowed to the laws of distribution, necessary relation of these laws. 2, rent and the law of rent. 3, interest and the cause of interest. 4, of spurious capital and of profits often mistaken for interest. 5, the law of interest. 6, wages and the law of wages. 7, correlations and coordination of these laws. Did I say 7? Then this would be 8. The statistics of the problem thus explained. Okay. The machines that are first invented to perform any particular movement are always the most complex, and succeeding artists generally discovered that with fewer wheels, with fewer principles of motion than had originally been employed, the same effect may be more easily produced. The first philosophical systems, in the same manner, are always the most complex, and a particular connecting chain or principle is generally thought necessary to unite every two seemingly disjointed appearances. But it often happens that one great connecting principle is afterward found to be sufficient to bind together all the discordant phenomena that occur in a whole species of things. From Adam Smith, Essay on the Principles Which Lead and Direct Philosophical Inquiries, as illustrated by the History of Astronomy. Okay, Chapter 1, the inquiry narrowed to the laws of distribution, the necessary relation of these laws. The text is now beginning. The preceding examination has, I think, conclusively shown that the explanation currently given... Where's the microphone thing? It's probably down here. The preceding examination has, I think, conclusively shown that the explanation currently given in the name of political economy of the problem we are attempting to solve is no explanation at all. That with material progress, wages fail to increase, but rather tend to decrease, cannot be explained by the theory that the increase of laborers constantly tends to divide into smaller portions the capital sum for which wages are paid. For, as we have seen, wages do not come from capital, but are the direct produce of labor. Each productive laborer, as he works, creates his wages, and with every additional laborer, there is an addition to the true wages fund. In addition to the common stock of wealth, which, generally speaking, is considerably greater than the amount he draws in wages. Nor yet can it be explained by the theory that nature yields less to the increasing drafts which an increasing population make upon her. For the increased efficiency of labor make the progressive state a state of continually increasing production per capita, and the countries of densest population, other things being equal, are always the countries of greatest wealth. So far, we have only increased the perplexities of the problem. We have overthrown a theory which did, in some sort of fashion, explain existing facts, but in doing so, have only made existing facts seem more inexplicable. It is as though, while the Ptolemaic theory was yet in its strength, it had been proved simply that the sun and stars do not revolve about the earth. The phenomena of day and night and of the apparent motion of the celestial bodies would yet remain unexplained, inevitably to reinstate the old theory unless a better one took its place. Our reasoning has led us to the conclusion that each productive laborer produces his own wages, and the increase in the number of laborers should increase the wages of each, whereas the apparent facts are that there are many laborers who cannot obtain remunerative employment, and that increase in the number of laborers brings diminution of wages. We have, in short, proved that wages ought to be highest where in reality they are lowest. Nevertheless, even in doing this, we have made some progress. Next to finding what we look for is to discover where it is useless to look. We have at least narrowed the field of inquiry. For this at least is now clear, that the cause which, in spite of the enormous increase of productive power, confines the great body of producers to the least share of the product upon which they will consent to live, is not the limitation of capital, nor yet the limitation of the powers of nature which respond to labor, as it is not, therefore, to be found in the laws which bound the production of wealth. It must be sought in the laws which govern distribution. To them let us turn. Man, sometimes the arrangement of words is just really stumble over it. I might be too tired and froggy to read this. I don't know. It will be necessary to review in its main branches the whole subject of the distribution of wealth, to discover the cause which, as the population increases and the productive arts advance, deepens the poverty of the lowest class. We must find the law which determines what part of the produce is distributed to labor as wages. To find the law of wages, or at least to make sure when we have found it, we must also determine the laws which fix the part of the produce which goes to capital and the part which goes to landowners. For as land, labor, and capital join in producing wealth, it is between these three that the produce must be divided. What is meant by the produce or production of a community is the sum of the wealth produced by that community, the general fund from which, as long as previously existing stock is not lessened, all consumption must be met and all revenues drawn. As I have already explained, production does not merely mean the making of things, but includes the increase of value gained by transporting or exchanging things. There is a produce of wealth in a purely commercial community, as there is in a purely agricultural or manufacturing community. And in the one case, as in the others, some part of this produce will go to capital, some part to labor, and some part, if land have any value, to the owners of land. As a matter of fact, a portion of the wealth produced is constantly going to the replacement of capital, which is constantly consumed and constantly replaced. But it is not necessary to take this into account, as it is eliminated by considering capital as continuous, which, in speaking or thinking of it, we habitually do. When we speak of the produce, we mean, therefore, that part of the wealth produced above what is necessary to replace the capital consumed in the production, and when we speak of interest, or the return to capital, we mean what goes to capital after its replacement or maintenance. It is further a matter of fact that in every community which has passed the most primitive stage, some portion of the produce is taken in taxation and consumed by government. But it is not necessary, in seeking the laws of distribution, to take this into consideration. We may consider taxation either as not existing far as by so much reducing the produce, and so too of what is taken from the produce by certain forms of monopoly, which will be considered in a subsequent chapter, and which exercise powers analogous to taxation. After we have discovered the laws of distribution, we can then see what bearing, if any, taxation has upon them. We must discover these laws of distribution for ourselves, or at least 2 out of the 3, for that they are not, at least as a whole, correctly apprehended by the current political economy may be seen, irrespective of our preceding examination of one of them, in any of the standard treatises. This is evident in the first place from the terminology employed. In all political economic works, we are told that the 3 factors in production are land, labor, and capital, and that the whole produce is primarily distributed into 3 corresponding parts. 3 terms, therefore, are needed, each of which shall clearly express one of these parts to the exclusion of the others. Rent, as defined clearly enough, expresses the first of these parts, that which goes to the owners of the land. Wages, as defined clearly enough, expresses the second, that part which constitutes the return to labor. But as to the third term, that which should express the return to capital, there is in the standard works a most puzzling ambiguity and confusion. Okay, this is 156, and I'm just going to stop there.